Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Welcome back to Sports Nightly. I'm Jessica Coody and excited to once again be joined by the University of Nebraska System President, Dr. Jeff Gold, joining us here on Sports Nightly, as he is going to continue to do here throughout this spring semester, keeping us up to date on all the things happening here across the University of Nebraska System. Thank you for being here with us once again.
It's always a pleasure. What are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, I'm going to ask you again, because we always do, about sports and how about the softball season. Coach Ravel did not leave things easy for this team to start the season off. Boy, they are in the best of the best tournaments here to start the season, but what an exciting start. And this is an exciting team and should be an exciting season.
Well, I agree with all of those. Certainly had a phenomenal year last year. Coach is an amazing leader, and I'm really, really looking forward to this season. I know that the team is, they're aiming for another championship year. And I have every confidence that we'll all be celebrating that together. I hope to join many of our fans, both here locally. And, last year I had a chance to be on the road with the team a couple of times, and equally exciting. It just seems every time one of our teams goes on the road, just to, digress for a minute, I was in Chicago not too long ago with my grandchildren, and it just happened to be that the men's basketball team was playing in Evanston. And so we took a ride up there, and let me just say there was a ton of red, and Go Big Red was just as loud, if not louder, than the Go Cats. And, of course, we won.
And I'm sure you're expecting more record-breaking crowds out there at Bowlin Stadium again this spring.
Oh, absolutely. The excitement, again, about women's sports in Nebraska and the success of our team speaks for itself.
Well, I understand that the University of Nebraska also recently announced the formation of a new university-wide institute. What will its focus be?
So this is exciting for us as well. The newspapers and the evening news are just full of information about what's called artificial intelligence. Now, this artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence has been around for a really long time and continues to grow with advances in software and hardware. However, when ChatGPT hit the market, it really created a national level of awareness that really not only created opportunities in healthcare, in academics, in business, but also created risk as well, because first of all, people didn't fully understand what its capabilities are, and it does continue to evolve. But secondly, sometimes it produces information that may not be completely accurate either. And for those of us that use it, we've experienced that as well. So it's very important that all universities, which are now confronting what to do with artificial intelligence, I think ought to have an organized approach. So we are establishing an institute, working very hard to put the pieces together, that'll be focused on the use of what's called generative and agent artificial intelligence. And that has everything to do from software and hardware to machine learning, has everything to do with how we equip our undergraduate and graduate students with expertise and the skill sets that they need, the practice to use it to their advantage and not be caught in a way that it's not really helping them but could be hindering them. At the same time, we need to look at all of our business practices, because these are types of software applications that can really make things faster, more secure. I'm really excited, particularly, given my background, about what it's going to do in healthcare. I am completely convinced it's going to improve access, reduce cost, and increase accuracy in diagnosis and treatment. We get into situations in healthcare not infrequently where patients have multiple different physicians, all of whom may be prescribing medications for them. And so if you have, 3 different, 4 different healthcare providers who are prescribing meds, and who's worrying about the interaction between those meds? Hopefully your pharmacist is, which is something they do extremely well. But, think about it. If there was a single software application that could say, if you're on drug A, maybe you should reduce the dose of drug B or try drug C or something of that nature. And so for all those types of reasons, I'm really excited about this institute. Another piece of it, though, that is important that I really was quite insistent on is that there be a solid focus on the ethics of the use of artificial intelligence or even the abuse. First of all, the accuracy is not always 100%, as we said. The phrase is that it hallucinates. When I went to medical school, hallucination had a different meaning, but now it really means what happens when AI gives you the wrong answer. But, there are biases that are present within AI systems because they only rely on historical data, and there are potential for abuse of it as well. So I want to be sure we go into it full throttle to take advantage of the benefits of it, but at the same time that we're very cognizant of what the risks are and what the abuses may be.
Great stuff. Well, the university also recently announced the search for a permanent chancellor for the University of Nebraska Medical Center campus up there in Omaha. What can you tell listeners about that process?
Well, that's a job that I know well, having sat in that chair for 10 and a half years, as well as other chairs at UNO and in the provost's office here in Lincoln. And when I stepped into the role of becoming the 9th president of this university, I still look in the mirror in the morning and say, "You really the president of this great university system? How does a kid who grew up, in the inner city of New York ever do that?" But that left a huge vacancy, and we asked Dr. H. Deli Davies, who was the senior vice chancellor for academic affairs, to step in that role, and he's been in that role for just over 18 months. And we were working very hard to get the accreditation of the University of Nebraska Lincoln campus and Med Center campus changed by the Higher Learning Commission so that we have an integrated accreditation between the two. And now that is done. It's been not only approved by the Higher Learning Commission, but it's been fully now approved by the Department of Education. And so we thought in consultation with the regents that this is the right time to move ahead and find a permanent chancellor. And so here we are. We're named a search committee, hired a search firm, and going to do a search and find a rock star to fill that role.
All right. Well, I also understand that there are some big changes coming to the Lead Center for Performing Arts right here in Lincoln. What do our listeners need to know about the recently announced expansion there?
Well, this is also a very exciting project. The Lead Center is clearly one of the crown jewels for public entertainment in partnership with the University of Nebraska. I've not only attended numerous events there, but had the privilege of being part of some of them. I remember we had the honor of introducing the Ukrainian orchestra to the audience here. That was a lot of fun. We actually celebrated Johnny Carson's 100th birthday at the Lead Center not too long ago. And this is an opportunity to improve the facilities, more space for the guests, more space for performance as well. I believe it's completely or nearly completely funded by private philanthropic investments, which makes it even nicer. Yes, there are going to be some orange cones around the building for a while, and you're going to see some cranes and trucks and things of that nature, maybe even kick up some dust and make some noise. But the Lead Center will be markedly improved. I've had the opportunity to look at the plans and the renderings of what the inside will be and what the outside will look like. And not just the city of Lincoln, but the whole state will be markedly benefited by this change.
All right. Well, before we let you get out of here, I wanted to ask you about something that I know is very near and dear to you. February is National Heart Month, a nationwide observance that spotlights cardiovascular disease. And I'd love for you to share with our listeners and viewers about your background, a little bit more about your background as a pediatric heart surgeon and what they need to know during this important month.
Yeah, sure. Many in our audience know that for decades of my life, I practiced medicine and dealt with heart disease every day. A lot of my practice was with kiddos with heart disease, and unfortunately, newborn heart disease, due to lack of normal development of the heart, is one of the most common congenital defects and is actually rising in frequency as opposed to falling, which would be true of several other types of congenital defects. But I think the most important message is really to the adults in our community, and that is that heart disease and stroke are the #1 killer in the United States. They have been for as long as I can remember, And while we're doing a much better job at preventing and treating these diseases, the prevalence just continues to be number one. Now, interestingly, cancer continues to rise, and cancer may, exceed heart disease because we are making gains in heart disease, and we're not making quite the same rate of change in cancer. There's a tremendous amount of cancer here in Nebraska, particularly pediatric cancer, as our audience may know. But talking about heart disease and the number one killer, most of that is what we call atherosclerotic or coronary artery disease. So that's your typical heart attack or stroke that we're all unfortunately familiar with. I'm guessing there are very few Nebraska families that either don't have a family member living with heart disease or tragically lost a family member from heart disease. Certainly in my family, there's a long history of it as well. The bad news is that there are genetic traits that you're born with that you can't change. You know, if your father and your grandfather and your great-grandfather all had heart disease at an early age, likely that's going to persist. The good news is, and the most important news, is that that is not inevitable. And that is individuals need to take control of their lifestyle in order to prevent the long-term complications and even the sudden death associated with heart disease. And that includes things like tobacco use, and one of the main predictors, management of diabetes and prediabetes, diet, and being very aware of, how much high-density lipoproteins, fats that are in your diet. Blood pressure control, another major predictor of heart disease and stroke. And it used to be that, you go for your annual physical and your healthcare professionals say, this is your lipid number and this is your blood pressure, and it's a little too high and maybe you ought to take these medications for it. But it's now been shown that these medications not only just reduce blood pressure or give you better control of your blood sugar or your, the statins that are so helpful around your cholesterol and your other lipids, but it's been shown now that they markedly reduce the incidence of heart attack and stroke, and they markedly reduce death rates. And in some of the most important studies in individuals who have had a heart attack or a stroke, when you aggressively control their diet, their exercise, you get their lipids down and their blood pressure down, you have a very significant chance of enhancing their survival, almost back to normal, which, that's a remarkable fact. So, it's not a kind of thing where you just sort of give up. And by the way, the focus on this can't start in your 60s, It's got to start in your 20s with a healthy lifestyle, healthy diet, and healthy monitoring of your lipids, your blood pressure, your sugars, and things of that nature. So every February, I always have the opportunity to share some of my thoughts at the American Heart Association galas, which are, of course, fundraising events. The Heart Association does a great job of supporting awareness, training, research, etc. But it just can't be February. We make New Year's resolutions in January. We usually forget them by February or something else has changed. But February is a time to remind everybody that heart disease is something we can and should manage, and we can live longer, happier lives without it.
Dr. Gold, great stuff as always. We'll look forward to you checking back in March. Can you believe it? Next time we chat will be March.
It'll be March Madness.
I love it. I love it. Best time of the year. Again, that is President Dr. Jeff Gold here with us on Sports Nightly. Got to step aside for a break. More of the show coming up right after this.